Hey, Don, you with us?
Yes, of fucking course I'm with you, you moron. How the fuck else would I be able to hear your question, much less answer it?
Whoa, someone woke up on the wrong side of the jail cell this morning?
Fuck you, Obama. I'm in no mood to hear this shit. Let's just get through this list. They don't give us a lot of time for our phone call.
Wait a second, Trump. You have one call to make on the phone today and you used it for this? Why not your family?
I've already tried calling Ivanka. There was no answer. Melania's number wasn't working because some random guy kept answering.
What about your other kids?
What other kids?
Never mind. Okay, fellas, let's do something a bit different for this tier list. Let's rank the original Sherlock Holmes canon.
Oh, fuck yeah. I love the original stories. That shit blew my mind while I was growing up.
Yes, absolutely. Those were some of my favorite books to read when I was a boy.
I don't think these were written yet back in the Stone Age, Joe. I think you're misremembering your childhood.
Fuck you, Donald. Let's see you make jokes after they sentence your November pumpkin ass to prison for life.
I'd like to see them try. That's not relevant anyway. We're making a tier list. Are we actually going to rank the novels and each individual short story?
Hell no. That would take 5 hours with most of it being you two arguing over irrelevant shit. We're grouping the short stories into their collections and ranking those with the novels.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, boys. Let's start this list off with A Study in Scarlet, the first time we meet Sherlock Holmes.
And it was really bad. Put this amateur snooze fest into D tier, Barack.
Are you shitting me, Trump? This story was groundbreaking. Not only did it introduce the most famous detective in history, but it revolutionized the way the public thought about solving crime, presenting it as a science in a way that sucked the reader in. It deserves B tier at the least. A very solid start.
This book is as solid as your memory, Joe. It did make some tropes mainstream, but the mystery itself is mid-tier. The murderer is a complete idiot who avoids a trap set up at Holmes' place, only to then walk into a new trap set for him the next day at the exact same location. Our main characters aren't very fleshed out, and it felt like one of the short stories stretched out over 10 chapters with meaningless distractions that just wasted our time, like the dumb meeting with the old hag or hearing about Gregson's arrest that ended up being wrong and useless anyway.
That's part of detective work, genius. People are supposed to follow different paths for different reasons. It would be boring if the story was just them taking the exact right steps to catch the killer. And even if characters like Watson and Holmes aren't fleshed out as much as later, you're still invested with what you get and fascinated with how Holmes sees the world.
Hate to say it, Joe, but I'm leaning towards Donald's side on this one. You raised some good points, but the mystery was weak in retrospect, and Holmes comes off as less mature here. It makes sense since it's his earlier years, but it's still a little off-putting how arrogant and patronizing he is at times.
That part never bothered me. Actually, I kind of liked this version of him.
That's not surprising.
Speaking of weak parts, let's not forget the Mormon backstory coming out of nowhere.
Oh, fuck me. I almost forgot about that dumb distraction. One moment you're reading about a killer being tracked down, the next instant the book is flashing back to Mormons finding an old man in the desert. That backstory is so out of place. The entire book up to that point is from Watson's memories, but suddenly we're hearing about all these events taking place that no one could have known about. So sloppy and lazy.
I actually like that part.
Why does that not surprise me, Sleepy Joe? You probably forgot that this book started as a mystery story, so of course it didn't bother you that a completely different story was sandwiched in the middle.
Fuck off, Trump. The backstory of a family being persecuted and hunted down by religious nutcases was very exciting, and it gave the killer plenty of motivation to devote his life to avenging the murder of the woman he loved. The lengths he went to was tragic as fuck, devoting the rest of his life to revenge until it ultimately killed him.
I'm sorry, Joe, but it didn't fit within the book at all. As a separate story, it could have been okay. But in this context, it was a jarring shift. We could go back and forth on this. I don't think the book is bad, but it is lacking and far from the best in the canon. I think C tier is a good compromise. Okay, next we have The Sign of Four. I think we can all agree this was a stronger entry, even though it has a few problematic aspects that make it more dated.
For sure. There's no doubting that the story itself is more engaging and exciting, but the way it portrays Indians is very cringe in hindsight.
That's putting it mildly.
No one can ignore the racist caricatures in here. However, I will say that unlike other authors like H.P. Lovecraft, I don't necessarily blame the author, Arthur Conan Doyle, as a person. The racial stereotypes in this book seem to be because of just general ignorance of that time and society.
I'm not sure I completely buy that, but an argument for it can be made. I will agree that Doyle does come off better compared to other authors of the time thanks to some of his later writings. A few later stories had surprisingly base takes with good messages.
Jesus Christ, I feel my brain melting listening to you libs speak your woke shit.
Your brain is already melted, Trump.
At least I can read a simple mystery story without getting triggered about something that doesn't even matter. I don't see how a few outdated views are relevant to our ranking at all.
Donald, the story involves Tonga, a 3-foot-tall Indian savage who climbed up walls to shoot poisonous darts at people. His characterization was similar to a dog or loyal pet that helped his white master.
I'm not seeing any problems here.
What the fuck, Trump? How dense are you? Even Thaddeus Sholto, despite being very sympathetic, is still depicted as a weird, socially inept Indian coward incapable of handling any challenges.
Yeah, there's no avoiding these stains on an otherwise good story. But the best thing about this book is the sense of adventure and seeing Holmes push to his limit.
Which is such an improvement on the boring shit of the first book. This was much more exciting, and the only part that really drags for me is the backstory at the end. Let's also not forget the climactic chase, which was a great way to close out an entertaining mystery. This needs to go into A tier.
I wouldn't go that far. The story does have a few complaints that keep it out of A, even outside of the racial problem. The police inspector was ridiculously bad. I get that the officials are supposed to look dumb compared to Holmes, but here it goes too far. The guy is cartoonishly bad. And I'm not sure I really like the romance either. It came off a little too sappy for me.
I also don't think it deserves A tier, but I found the romance pretty touching. It's always nice reading about two good people growing closer together. Mary is a very lovely character, even if she's a bit too old, in my opinion.
She was 27 years old, Joe. What the hell is wrong with you? Sorry she's not a child for you to smell her hair, you fucking creep.
That's pretty messed up, Joe. Be more like Trump, who scouts children to date when they grow up.
Damn straight, Obama. Thanks for the support.
Getting back on topic, I know you wanted this higher Don, but with me and Joe disagreeing, it's only fair to put it into B tier.
Really dumb, but I'm not surprised coming from you two. We better all agree about this next one, though. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is an easy S tier and probably the best thing in the original canon.
Base take. I agree 100%.
I'm with you guys, too. Holmes finally feels like the peak version of himself throughout. And this is a much better starting point for new readers. Shifting the format from novels to short stories was a perfect choice. The first adventure, A Scandal in Bohemia, is a classic, and it perfectly introduces the reader to Holmes and his way of reasoning. My mind was blown when I first read this story, hearing him deduce that Watson had taken a walk during a storm and had a very clumsy servant. It's like Holmes gives you an introductory course in reasoning before he begins his memorable run-in with Irene Adler.
Obama dropping facts like he drops drone strikes on civilians.
Oh, wow. Very original, Donald. Are you forgetting that you were outpacing my rate of drone strikes?
Nice attempt at a deflection, Obama, but we all know you hold the record of most drone strikes ever by a president.
Well, I'm sorry you couldn't beat my numbers because you lost your re-election.
We'll fucking see about that, Barack. Just wait. I'll crush Sleepy Joe in 2024, and then I'll crush your drone strike numbers. Easily.
Jesus fucking Christ, Don. Can we please get back on topic? The Adventures has many classic stories besides the first one. The 5 Orange Pips, The Engineer's Thumb, The Blue Carbuncle, the list goes on and on.
Let's not forget The Speckled Band, the single greatest Sherlock Holmes story ever written.
I don't know about that. It's a great story, but everyone always calls it the best, like it's the default. I think it's a bit overrated.
You did not just say that blasphemy, Joe. It's one of the most absorbing and unnerving mystery stories ever written. The story seems very standard at first, but it gets under your skin and pulls you in the further you go. It's praised for good reason.
It's just a locked room murder scenario with a novel twist. I think The Red-Headed League was the actual best story.
What medication do they have you taking there, Joe? There's no way a functioning person could think that goofy story is better. It was about the most contrived bank robbery plan in history. Some guys want to tunnel into a bank vault from a random person's basement. So how do you get him out of the way? Kidnap him and start digging? No, of course not. That's too simple and likely to work. Instead, the robber's genius plan is to work as his assistant for half pay, create a fake club of redheads looking to pay someone lots of money, interview thousands of redheaded people who flood the city wanting to be hired until you finally meet the actual homeowner, hire him, then rent an office on the other side of town for a month, and pay him to sit there for 4 hours a day while you sneak into his basement to dig into the vault. Stupidest plan I've ever heard in my life.
It was definitely an odd plan, as Holmes himself acknowledges. But he also makes a good point after catching them. How else were they supposed to get him out of the house?
Are you fucking serious, Joe? How about invading the home and holding him prisoner for a week while digging the tunnel? He works at home anyway and barely gets any visitors. Holmes looked like an idiot by defending such a stupid plan.
Have to admit, it must be a pretty bad scam when Trump thinks it's dumb. Also, what kind of moron thinks it's a good idea to make up a fake club that pays only red-haired people, then gets published in the newspapers and has thousands of people show up to apply? It's practically inviting every journalist to investigate such a strange organization and see that it's a scam.
Those damn journalists are always getting in the way. I sympathized with the Red-Headed League, but their plan was so bad. I could have done it much better than these suckers. It's a mid-tier story at best, probably the worst one in an otherwise outstanding collection.
Well, as long as we all still agree about the collection as a whole, we can leave it in S tier. The next collection is the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes.
Same as Adventures, a clear S tier.
No goddamn way this deserves to be at the same level. Memoirs is overrated trash. Put it in D tier.
You're out of your mind, Trump. How can anyone put these classic stories that low?
Because this was when the franchise went woke and started pushing the usual Hollywood libtard agenda.
What the fee-fi-fo-fuck are you talking about, Donald?
You know damn well what I'm talking about. The Adventure of the Yellowface. You think you're reading about Holmes uncovering a scandal and then bam, without warning, you're hit with the same SJW bullshit spreading in all our games and movies. Suddenly, it's not about a mysterious scandal, but interracial marriage and hiding a black child from society because everyone is too racist. Cringe, cringe, cringe. The woke stoppo have taken Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Marvel movies, and now even the greatest detective ever written. Nothing is safe.
For fuck's sakes, Donald. This story was published in 1893. There was no woke movement back then.
Actually, put this shit in F tier, Barack.
Kill me now, please.
I'm not a racist. I just hate bad storytelling where they push this woke agenda down our throats. It's ruining entertainment and always will.
The culture war has rotted your brain. Holy fuck.
Yeah, definitely, though if I'm being 100% honest, there are a few stories that I didn't like very much. Everyone praises Silver Blaze, but I found it to be very dull, actually. It's just a story about a horse that got free and was later found on someone's farm.
Don't be a hater, Barack. That story is a certified classic. You're ignoring the brilliant red herring of the owner's death seeming to be a murder. Not to mention the great clues given by Holmes, like the sheep being lame and the dog not barking in the night.
I'll grant you that those were really nice hints. But this collection had its fair share of misses, in my honest opinion, though I'm obviously not a complete fucking idiot like Trump. A few stories didn't really interest me, like The Crooked Man. I'm also one of the rare people that don't like the Musgrave Ritual.
I disagree on those, but even if I did agree, there's too many other incredible stories here. The Naval Treaty, the Resident Patient, the Greek Interpreter, for fuck's sakes.
No argument there. The Greek Interpreter is an S-tier story for sure.
Hell yeah, it is. That story fucking slaps. You meet Sherlock's brother and the two tackle one of the darkest, most intense mysteries in the canon. The story you hear about the interpreter at the start gave me chills.
And then there's arguably the greatest closing story of all, The Final Problem.
One of the most emotional, resonant, and haunting stories I've ever read.
Pure truth being spoken right now.
I couldn't believe it when I first finished it and realized Sherlock Holmes had died. What an incredible ending. Even the newspaper here made it a headline the next day. It was all anybody talked about at school for the next month when it came out. Young Billy Smith and I used to pull Edith's leg because she didn't have the 3 nickels to buy the magazine before it sold out. She had to put in a few days' work at Hardin's Shoe Shiners after school to earn enough.
What the fuck did I just hear? Seriously, Joe, how old are you?
Columbus was a fucking chump.
Stay on topic, dumbass. We need to give The Final Problem its praise. If that one did end up being the last Holmes story ever written, as it was originally meant to be, I wouldn't have minded too much. It was just that damn good. The first and only real story about Holmes and Moriarty, and they end up fighting to the death. Absolutely legendary.
Exactly, Trump. So maybe the memoirs deserve to be ranked a bit higher. May you be?
No, fuck this shit. Put it in F tier now.
For Christ's sake, Trump.
Create a new Z tier and put this liberal garbage there.
I can't even continue with this list right now because of your bullshit. I hope you spend your life in prison.
Keep dreaming, Obama. My supporters would never let me rot away in that hellhole. They'd get me out.
Whoa, there's a big fucking surprise. Trump actually admitting that he's using his crazy followers to become violent to save him. Like a cult leader.
Like you guys are any better?
Actually, we are.
Oh, both of you can piss off. I don't have the benefit of an entire system propping me up. When you two bomb a school or deport families or take bribes and let special interests step on Americans, you have an entire establishment there to sweep it all under the rug. But when I do the same things, suddenly it's, oh no, big bad Trump has to be stopped, and I get investigated. Neither of you two will ever be in danger of being arrested, and it's not because you haven't done something that you should be arrested for. It's because you're in the club. Everyone who could stop you is already your friend, sucking up to you. So yes, I do use my supporters as a threat because that's how I get out of trouble. I'm just using whatever tools I got to stay on top. Same as you.
Well, damn, Trump, looks like we've got more in common than I thought.
True enough, Barack. I was just thinking the same thing. If only we could have the best of both worlds with institutions protecting our status, along with blindly devoted fans willing to fight on our behalf. We'd be unstoppable.
I think I came pretty close to that when I was first elected in '08. I had all the support of all big names, and at the same time, all the activists thought I was the second coming.
A shame you couldn't keep that illusion going.
Yeah, I became too cautious and gave myself away in the end.
People did eventually wise up to the act.
I had the opposite problem. I got elected while pissing off all the higher-ups, but afterwards I couldn't win them over no matter how many times I cut taxes and regulations. They just can't stand me.
Don't take it personally, Donald. They loved what you were doing, just not what you were saying. They wanted a friendlier face to make everything you did easier to accept.
Double fucking standards.
Well, good luck with everything, Trump. Honestly, part of me is hoping your followers do intimidate people away from prosecuting you. That shit might be useful for me one day.
In your dreams, Sleepy Joe. You're too boring to ever get followers to care that much for you.
Lowell, he got you there, Joe.
Whatever.
Okay, take care, fellas.
See you soon.
See ya.